Hello everybody, today I wanted to talk about protectionism and why it's honestly just an extremely stupid idea fundamentally. Quick background on me, I am a Hoppian libertarian, meaning that I mostly agree with the ideas of Hans Hermann Hoppe and Murray Rothbard. Getting right into the video, what is protectionism? Well, protectionism refers to government policies that restrict international trade in an attempt to help domestic industries. They're usually implemented with the goal of improving economic activity in a domestic market by discouraging or limiting foreign trade. However, they can also be implemented for quality and safety assurance. The main thing to focus on from these two sentences is attempt to and the goal of, because as we'll discuss later in the video, protectionism often does not accomplish what it sets out to do. But before we get into that, what are the tools of protectionism? How is it implemented? Well, the main one right now, and the main one that's been in the media right now, is tariffs. And tariffs are basically just a tax placed on international goods coming into your country. Let's just make up an example and say a Japanese company wants to start selling TVs in the United States, and the United States government says, yep, that's fine, but now you have to pay us 10% of what you make off of selling these TVs. That is an example of a tariff. There's also something called scientific tariffs, and basically these are tariffs placed on an item by item basis. So let's say that Japanese company wants to start selling TVs in the US, and the US wants to place a tariff on that because there is a lot of US companies that are already doing this, and they would rather people buy the US TVs, obviously, because it's going to stimulate the United States economy more. But then they start selling something that doesn't have as much competition in the United States, so the United States government still puts a tariff on it most likely, but they're going to put a lower tariff on it than they would with the TVs because there's not really much competition there. There's not really a reason to raise the price for the average American consumer if there's no American equivalent product. Tariffs are not the only tool used in protectionism. There's also government subsidies, both direct and indirect. Direct subsidies mean that the government just provides a business with cash payments. They just straight up give the business money. An indirect subsidy is a little bit more complicated. It comes in the form of special savings, such as interest-free loans and tax breaks. The last tool of protectionism, or at least the last one I'm going to talk about in this video, is an import quota. This is a non-tariff barrier set in place to limit the number of product that can be imported over a set period of time. Okay, so now that we've talked about what protectionism is and how it works, why is it bad? So I could go the lazy way and say that protectionism involves tariffs, which are taxes, and taxes are theft, and theft is bad, ergo protectionism is bad. However, I feel like that would be extremely lazy and unconvincing for most of you, so I'm going to dive a little bit deeper. So the first place I'm going to start is the most common argument I see for tariffs, which is other countries need to pay their fair share. Ironically, this ends up being the exact same argument that leftists use for taxing the rich. And funnily enough, it ends up not working for much of the same reason. That reason being tax incidence. So I know a lot of you probably don't know what tax incidence is, but most simply put, tax incidence is a term used in economics to understand the division of tax burden among producers and consumers, or buyers and sellers. All this means is that if a producer is taxed, then the consumer is going to pay the burden of that tax. This usually being in the form of price hikes by the producer in order for them to make up from the losses that the taxation caused the business. This is the same for both taxing the rich and tariffs. The only difference really being the rich people in your country or the rich people in other people's countries. But at the end of the day, with either, the effect is still the same. The consumer is going to end up paying more, and it's going to lead to caused inflation. And you might say, well, wouldn't people just buy American products then? Well, no, not exactly, because the American companies are going to see that they can get away with raising their prices up to the same prices as the international companies, and people will still buy it. So what they're going to do is that. Now, there will be some that will keep their prices low because they figure that, oh, our prices are lower, so people will end up choosing our product over the foreign product. However, there's something I've failed to mention up until this point, and that's the fact that American products just cost more on average than foreign products. This meaning that even if the American product stays the exact same price before tariffs and the foreign product becomes more expensive after the tariffs, you're still going to be paying more because you're going to have to pay more for that American product than you would pre-tariff foreign products. Now, you could argue that they could take tariff money and subsidize it into these companies in order for the companies to be able to lower their prices. However, that would involve printing more money, causing inflation, and or just raising taxes in general, also causing a net negative to the American consumer. Just know I did script this part of the video just because I wanted to make sure that I didn't leave anything out. So if it sounds a little bit unnatural, that's why. The next point I want to address is people that just say, bro, it's 4D chess, or bro, it's just for negotiations. Apparently, taxing consumers and expanding the state isn't tyranny anymore. It's just strategy. It's not authoritarianism. It's just a multi-dimensional master plan to outsmart the deep state, China, and the libs. As long as it's your guy in office doing it, suddenly big government isn't so evil. It's super patriotic. But let's get one thing straight. If your freedom depends on trusting a politician's secret strategy, you're not free. You're just being played. You're cheering for your own leash because you think it's got your team's colors on it. Trump slaps tariffs on Americans, 4D chess, he's totally tricking China. DeSantis expands the surveillance state, 4D chess, he's totally owning the libs. Your favorite senator votes to fund the IRS, Ukraine, and red flag laws? Bro, relax. It's all part of the plan. Meanwhile, when Biden does it, it's tyranny, it's communism, it's globalist infiltration. But when your guy does it, it's the long game, it's based, it's necessary for the fight. Spoiler alert, it's the exact same state power. The only difference is the pin on the lapel. This is the fundamental problem with the 4D chess cope. You've traded principle for personality. You've replaced liberty with loyalty. You don't need 4D chess. You need a spine. Because power doesn't shrink when your guy uses it. It grows, and then it gets handed off to the next guy who doesn't care about your team, your freedom, or your constitution. And by the time you realize it wasn't a chess game, you are the pawn. All right, guys, so that was it for talking about why Republicans are wrong about tariffs. Now I want to talk about how the left, while pedantically correct, is still wrong about tariffs. Okay, so let me ask you something. If leftists hate tariffs so much because they quote unquote hurt the little guy, then why are they completely fine with taxing the rich, even though it does the exact same thing? No, seriously, if you actually understand how tax incidence works, you know this isn't even a controversial statement. When you slap a tariff on a foreign good, prices go up and consumers eat the cost. When you raise taxes on the rich, on corporations, investments, or capital, those costs get passed down too. Higher prices, lower wages, fewer jobs. It's basic economics. So why is one oppression and the other justice? This is because the truth is, leftists don't actually oppose tariffs on a principled level. They oppose them because they've been conditioned to associate them with nationalism, Trump, and economic populism. It's all tribal. Ma protectionism, ma MAGA, ma orange man bad. But here's the irony. The very same logic they use to criticize tariffs applies even harder to the policies they love, such as taxing the rich. It's just an indirect tax on people who aren't rich. Corporations don't eat losses, they raise prices, cut labor, and automate faster. Or they move offshore. And guess who pays for that? You do. So no, it's not that leftists are standing on principle. It's that they're addicted to optics, not outcomes. They want economic policy that feels moral, even if it functions identically to the stuff they claim to hate. If they were honest, they would admit it. But it's never about consumer protection. It's about team politics and being viewed as moral rather than actually portraying virtue. Anyway, guys, I think that's going to wrap it up for this video. If you enjoyed, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. I know this was extremely different from content I normally post. If you enjoy this style of content and want to see more of it, let me know by subscribing and hitting that like button down below. Don't forget to comment and tell me what I can do better as far as this type of content goes, because I really did enjoy making this video. I'll see you guys in the next one. Goodbye.